It is 7:20 a.m. Thursday. Just set my tripometer. We're going to drive down East Washington westbound in the morning. Check out the signal timing, and we're not going to exceed the posted speed limit. I'm going to give some thoughts and just see if there's any adjustments that could be made. So the first signal, you're coming off the highway, your arrival is random. Could be red, could be green. I do see a pedestrian in the crosswalk. Looks like they didn't push the button. If they had pushed the button, you'd see the left turn arrow go green, but the through stay red. And that's just to get them across. It's actually more efficient to do it that way than hold the side street green longer. But what that does mean is your arrival at this next light might be off. But it's not a frequent enough occurrence to design around that, so you just kind of let it happen. And when it happens, it can be frustrating, but it's better than assuming that happens and then 9 out of 10 times the signals are worse. This signal runs free, as do all of our Z crossing signals. This next signal is in coordination with East Springs. However, there's a little bit of an assumption that you might get stopped at that signal that we just went through, so that green is delayed just a bit. So we do get slowed down here, but we got, what did we get stopped for? A couple seconds. Not a huge deal. It also kind of helps reset your mind from, I'm going 55 on the highway to 35 on a city street. Stop there a little bit, maybe that offset could come sooner a little bit, bring it up 5 seconds sooner, 10 seconds maybe. Part of the issue with doing that is also the opposite direction will sometimes be worse, so that's something that has to be always checked in the time-space diagram and just kind of watched on the cameras, but that's a pretty easy adjustment to make. So again, I got the cruise that's set at 35. And that's about what this group of traffic's doing. I'm at the rear of the platoon. There's 3 cars behind me total. So from East Springs to Mendota, that's considered one system. Those signals should more or less be coordinated. Now, coordinated doesn't always mean you never get stopped. It just means overall this system is kind of geared to be efficient within itself. Then you hit Stoughton Road. Lucked out this morning. This is a random arrival. This is a state-owned and operated signal, so the city doesn't have any control over it. So it kind of breaks up East Washington. So now we're going to start a new system once we get to Fair Oaks. So just like East Springs, just like Stoughton Road, because this is a new system, our arrival at this intersection is random. But there's also not another intersection nearby that this signal could be coordinated with. Melvin and Rethke is kind of at the edge of where you would expect to get good coordination. Once you get beyond about a half a mile distance between signals, you lose the benefit of coordination. So this signal, so the next 3 signals run uncoordinated. They run free based off detection. There's also a lot less traffic on the side street, so they can kind of get away with that. It also kind of helps keep our left turn side side street and pedestrian delay down. But that doesn't mean there's nothing connecting the next few signals. So the westbound signal at Highway 30 looks at this signal's detectors and will hold the green when this signal's green and there's traffic at the stop bar. Just so that we don't get a green here, and because there's just enough of a gap in front of us, we don't get the next signal turns red and then we stop twice. So it's kind of trying to avoid that double stopping. Just because a signal runs in free mode doesn't mean there's not some type of coordination within the system. This signal runs free because there's not a lot of side street traffic, and if we ran it in coordination, that left turn onto the highway would have really long delays. So in the morning it runs free. In the afternoon it does run in coordination. And then this is the first signal of a new coordinated signal system. And like any signal, assuming all detection is working right, there's no stuck PED button, there's no stuck detector that's holding a side street green and there's no one around. Assuming everything works right, we should now be into a new system. Speed limit drops to 30, so it's also a good time to start a new system. I made my coffee at home, so I don't have to stick my rear end out into traffic to get a cup of coffee. So we got cruise at 30. Just went green at North Street. There's a little bit of a traffic buildup, but we should be pretty well set once we arrive. And the other thing too, had we gotten that green at Mendota Street a little earlier, or if the side street was never called, we'd have probably sat at a red light here. So again, coordination mode doesn't mean never get stopped at a signal. It means they run a more rigid operation, and it's geared to how you want it to operate. And for our case, time it within the posted speed limit to the best that we can. You can't always get perfect coordination in two directions, so in some cases it's easy. In the morning we want to pick westbound, in the afternoon we want to pick eastbound. 6th Street and 4th Street both run free. Again, they tend to have less traffic on the side street. 4th Street runs free because this is a major transit stop. It's a major stop for students getting to school. So we want that signal to run pretty snappy and kind of prioritize them just a bit. But there is ample enough green time allowable that had we arrived on a green and here comes the platoon, it can hold that green for a fair amount of time. Again, I'm at the rear of the platoon. There's 4 cars behind me and a semi. The 1st Street signal is coordinated with the Milwaukee Street signal, but it's coordinated in a way that, again, it assumes you're going to stop at 6th Street. So if you stop at 6th Street or 4th Street, most of the platoon will make it through 1st Street without stopping. However, if you don't stop at 6th Street or 4th Street, you're probably going to get stopped at 1st Street. It could be made quote unquote perfectly coordinated, but then that means if you hit a red light, you're going to hit every red light. I would actually say either the signal's in transition now because it was off just a bit, or that offset needs to be pushed back a hair because we did get stopped at 4th Street. We should have made it through this one with the kind of the philosophy behind this operation. So that's item number 2 to look at. Oh, and we're about 10 minutes into the video. Average speed's about 26 miles an hour. Average miles per gallon. In my car's, it's ticking down, but it's at 47 miles per gallon. My car averages 30 in the city, 40 on the highway, but I find I'm usually around 38. So again, I'm hitting cruise at 30. I believe 1st Street also starts Baldwin and inbound. It's tricky between 1st and Baldwin. Again, there's a long distance. There's railroad tracks. It's hard to get the platoon to stick together for that distance, but I think we do have them coordinated within a system. So we get 1st Street working a little bit better. Again, the idea is from Milwaukee Street pretty much to Blair Street, you should maybe get stopped no more than 3 times at most. Probably more, get stopped twice, somewhere between 4th, 6th, 1st in Livingston, because Livingston is another one of those Z crossings and it runs free. 25 miles an hour here, so hit the cruise at 25, and this is where I think a lot of people struggle. I think a lot of people think 35 is actually going the speed limit. You know, if I look at drivers passing me and I look at the person tailgating me, no, this is the posted speed limit. So if you're going 5 over, if you're going 10 over, that's not going with the flow, isn't the posted speed limit. This is the posted speed limit. See how everyone raced ahead and they're just going to run into the red light. And now what makes things worse, everyone behind me is jumping ahead in the platoon, which is going to make traffic worse because it's timed for the lead driver to get to the next signal. If people go around that lead driver and take up the space in front of them, it's going to throw off signal coordination. And so we had a little bit of a slowdown. I don't think we'd have had that slowdown if everyone was going the speed limit. Again, it is 7:32. This is early in the morning rush, but this is the signal operations. It will continue up until 9 in the morning. I hit the stop bar at Blair Street at 14 minutes from the interstate. I think there's a couple issues, but minor issues. Adjust to offset, tweak it, 5-10 seconds here or there. But that is rush hour, East Washington. It might have been a little bit early in the rush hour. It's probably a little bit busier at 8 in the morning. But there you have it. And I'm going to continue. I'm going to let this run. We just went into a new traffic pattern at Broome Street and John Nolan Drive. So, and that's where I'm heading. That's where I'm going to check that traffic out as well. And just to keep the dialogue going, this intersection runs free. It was tried in coordination, but even with long cycle lengths, it couldn't really keep up with traffic very well, and especially for the northbound left turn, it didn't solve the problems like we had hoped it would. So we backed it out of and put it back into free, and we're seeing a little bit better operations that way. But that does mean that as you turn Blair Street, you're not going to hit that, that green wave here at Willie Street. But there's other users that have to be considered. As we exit the other side of the Monona Terrace from the interstate to roughly Broome Street, we're going to be looking at about 16 minutes, 30 seconds, somewhere around there.